The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Ambassador Kim Dae-ho walked inside, his black suit clean and pressed. Behind him came Park Ji-woo, a tall woman in military uniform, and Lee Na-ri, who carried a data pad filled with scientific reports. Kim looked around the huge circular room. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows that went up to the ceiling. Some had blue skin, others had scales, and many had features he had never seen before. At the center sat the council leaders, the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The human delegation will take their seats, announced Speaker Vexter, a tall alien with 4 arms and golden eyes. Kim nodded and sat down. He had been Earth's main diplomat for 10 years. He had signed peace treaties, trade agreements, and friendship pacts with dozens of alien races. Today felt different. Today felt wrong. We call this meeting to discuss the future of human participation in galactic affairs, Speaker Vexter continued. His voice echoed through the chamber. Park Ji-woo leaned closer to Kim. Sir, our intelligence reports were right. Look at how they're sitting. Kim noticed it too. The Valkyrie Empire delegates sat on the right side in their red robes. The Nexari Collective members were on the left in their silver suits. Usually, different alien groups mixed together during meetings. Today they had formed 2 clear sides. The Council has prepared a new agreement for humanity, said Councillor Zethavara of the Valkyrie Empire. She stood up, her tall form casting a shadow. This agreement will bring peace and order to our galaxy. Lee Na-ri whispered, "They're not even trying to hide it anymore." A holographic document appeared in the air above the chamber. Kim read the first few lines and felt his blood go cold. According to this mutual cooperation framework, Councillor Zethavara read aloud, humanity agrees to the following terms. First, humans will give up control of 70% of their colony worlds to be managed by the Council. Angry murmurs rose from some of the smaller alien delegations. Kim kept his face blank, but his hands clenched into fists. Second, the Valkyrie continued, humans will provide workers for all major galactic construction projects. These workers will serve for periods of no less than 10 years. That's slavery, Park Ji-woo said quietly. Third, human children will attend council education centers where they will learn proper galactic values and customs. Kim stood up slowly. May I speak? Speaker Vexter waved one of his 4 hands. The human delegate may ask questions after. We finished presenting the agreement. Kim sat back down. His jaw was tight with anger. Councillor Nexhari of the Nexari Collective took over. His voice was cold and mechanical. Fourth, all human military ships will be limited to defensive purposes only. No human vessel may carry weapons capable of harming council member species. Fifth, humans will share all technological discoveries with the council before using them. This includes medical advances, weapons technology, and space travel improvements. Sixth, human trade will be managed by council economic advisors to ensure fair distribution of resources across the galaxy. The document grew longer and longer. Each new rule made Kim angrier. They wanted to control where humans could live, what they could learn, how they could defend themselves, and what they could discover. Finally, Speaker Vexter asked, Does the human delegation have any questions about this agreement? Kim stood up again. This time, he did not sit down when told to wait. I have one question, Kim said. His voice was calm, but everyone in the chamber could hear the steel in it. What happens if humanity refuses these terms? The chamber fell silent. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at Kim. Councillor Zethavara smiled, showing sharp teeth. Humanity will not refuse. You are vastly outnumbered. Your species controls only 47 star systems. The Council controls over 3,000. We are not threatening you, added Councillor Nexhari. We are offering you a chance to be part of something greater than yourselves. Kim looked around the chamber. And if we say no? Then humanity will find itself very alone in a very dangerous galaxy, said Speaker Vexler. Without council protection, human colonies might face accidents. Pirates might attack human trade ships. Dangerous creatures might be found near human space. It would be very sad, but the Council cannot protect those who refuse to cooperate. Park Ji-woo stood up beside Kim. Her hand moved to her sidearm, but Kim touched her arm to stop her. I see, Kim said. So this is not really an agreement. This is a surrender document. Call it what you want, Councillor Zethavara said. The result is the same. Humanity will accept its proper place in the galactic order. Kim reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small golden pin. It was shaped like two hands shaking, the symbol of galactic peace. Every diplomat wore one during council meetings. This pin, Kim said, holding it up so everyone could see, represents the promise that all species in this galaxy will treat each other with respect and dignity. He looked directly at Speaker Vexler. You have broken that promise today. Kim walked to the center of the chamber. He placed the golden pin on the speaker's desk. The small sound it made seemed very loud in the quiet room. Humanity formally withdraws from all galactic accords, Kim announced. We withdraw from the Trade Alliance, the Defense Pact, the Scientific Exchange Program, and the Diplomatic Corps. Shocked voices filled the chamber. Some aliens stood up from their seats. Others pointed at Kim with anger. Kim continued in the same calm voice. We withdraw from the Navigation Treaty, the Colonial Rights Agreement, and the Peace Maintenance Protocol. You cannot do this, shouted Councillor Zethavara. Your species signed these agreements. Our species signed them in good faith, Kim replied. But you have shown us that good faith means nothing to the Council. Park Ji-woo and Lee Nari moved to stand beside their ambassador. All three humans faced the hundreds of angry aliens without fear. This is madness, said Speaker Vexler. Without the Council, humanity will not survive. Kim looked at him for a long moment. We survived for thousands of years before we met you. We built cities, explored space, and created art and music. Without your help. We will do so again. And what about your colonies that depend on Council trade? Asked Councillor Nexhari. What about the human scientists working on Council projects? What about the millions of humans living on mixed-species worlds? They will come home, Kim said simply. He turned to face the entire chamber. His voice carried to every corner of the huge room. We came to you in friendship. We shared our discoveries, our culture, and our dreams. We helped you fight wars, build bridges between hostile species, and explore new worlds together. Kim's voice grew stronger. But you saw our friendship as weakness? You saw our cooperation as submission? You thought that because we chose to work with you, we had no choice but to obey you. You were wrong. The chamber was completely silent. Now, even the angry voices had stopped. Humanity will remember this day, Kim said. We will remember who stood with us and who stood against us. We will remember who offered friendship and who demanded slavery. He walked toward the exit. Park Ji-woo and Lee Nari followed him. At the door, Kim stopped and looked back one last time. The galaxy is about to learn what it means to be without humanity, he said. I hope you are prepared for that lesson. The three humans walked out of the chamber. The massive doors closed behind them with a final echoing boom. In the silence that followed, Speaker Vexler realized he had made the biggest mistake in galactic history, but it was too late. The humans were gone, and they were not coming back. 6 months had passed since the humans walked out of the Galactic Council. At first, many alien leaders thought it was just anger that would fade away. They expected human diplomats to return within weeks, ready to negotiate better terms. They were wrong. Ambassador Yoon Soo-jin sat in her office on Terra Prime, humanity's capital world. Her desk was covered with reports from every human colony and outpost in the galaxy. Each report said the same thing: Protocol Silence is in effect. Protocol Silence was humanity's plan for complete withdrawal from galactic society. It had been created years ago, just in case something like this happened. Now it was being used. Status report, Yoon said to her assistant, Commander Lee Tae-won. All human colonies have confirmed withdrawal orders, Lee replied. We have begun evacuating mixed populations from neutral zones, Yoon nodded. What about the trade stations? Human merchants are completing their final deals and leaving. No new contracts are being signed? On the other side of the galaxy, Captain? Hanba-Ara stood on the bridge of the transport ship New Sol. Through the large windows, she could see Harmony Station, where humans and aliens had lived together for 50 years. Captain, we have another group ready for transport, reported Lieutenant Kim So-ho. How many this time? Han asked. 237 humans, families mostly. They lived here for generations. Han felt sad watching the families pack their belongings. These people had built lives here. They had alien friends, alien business partners, even alien spouses in some cases. But the order was clear. All humans must return to human space. Tell them we'll make room, Han said. No one gets left behind. The New Sol was one of hundreds of ships moving humans from mixed species worlds back to human colonies. It was the largest peaceful evacuation in galactic history. Dr. Kong Tae-min worked late in his laboratory on Research Station Alpha 7. He was packing up 30 years of scientific work. The station had been a joint project between humans and 6 alien species. Together they had discovered new medicines, better space engines, and ways to clean polluted planets. Now it was ending. Dr. Kong, called his research partner, a blue-skinned Altarian named Velanash, please reconsider. Our work on cancer treatment is almost complete. We could save millions of lives. Kang stopped packing and looked at his old friend. They had worked together for 15 years. Velanash had been at Kang's daughter's wedding. Kang had been at Velanash's naming ceremony for his 3rd child. I'm sorry, old friend, Kang said. The decision has been made. All human research partnerships are terminated. But why? Velanash asked. We did nothing wrong. My species voted against the Council's demands. I know, Kang said sadly. But the Council made it clear that humanity is not welcome as an equal partner. If we cannot be equals, we cannot be partners at all. Kang picked up a data crystal containing years of shared research. This contains everything we discovered together. You can continue the work without us. Velanash took the crystal with shaking hands. It won't be the same. No, Kang agreed. It won't be. Admiral Song Haijin stood in the command center of the UES Indomitable, humanity's largest warship. Around her, dozens of officers worked at control stations. On the main screen, she could see the positions of every human military vessel in the galaxy. Admiral, the evacuation of Outpost Zeta 9 is complete, reported Captain Park In-ho. Good. Order the Bisan and Incheon to escort the civilian transports to the Terran border. What about the defense platforms? Park asked. Destroy them, Song said without emotion. We built them, we paid for them, and we're not leaving them for others to use. The defense platforms around Outpost Zeta 9 had protected 3 alien colonies from pirate attacks for 20 years. Now they exploded in bright flashes as human demolition charges went off. Song felt no satisfaction watching the destruction. These platforms had saved countless alien lives. But if aliens wanted humans to leave, then humans would take their protection with them. Admiral, called Communications Officer Lim Dae-yoon, we're receiving distress calls from the Korvan Republic. Their border worlds are under attack by the Blight Swarms. Song looked at the tactical display. The Blight Swarms were savage creatures that consumed everything in their path. For decades, human fleets had quietly fought them in the dark spaces between stars, keeping them away from civilized worlds. Any human colonies threatened? Song asked. No, Admiral. The attacks are focused on Korvan space, far from our territory. Then it's not our problem anymore, Song said. Continue the withdrawal. Lim looked shocked. But Admiral, millions of Korvans could die. The Galactic Council made it very clear that humanity should not interfere in galactic affairs, Song replied coldly. We are simply following their wishes. On the alien worlds, panic was beginning to spread. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for centuries suddenly had no human ships. Space stations that relied on human maintenance started breaking down. Research projects that needed human expertise came to a halt. Ambassador Zethavara of the Valkyrie Empire sat in her private chambers, reading reports from across her territory. Human doctors had left medical stations. Human engineers had abandoned construction projects. Human teachers had closed their schools. This is temporary, she told herself. They will return when they realize they need us more than we need them. But deep down, she was starting to worry. The humans had been involved in everything. They had been so helpful, so willing to work with others, that everyone had forgotten how much they actually did. Premier Nexhari of the Nexhari Collective was having similar problems. His economic advisors brought him reports of failing supply chains, delayed shipments, and canceled contracts. Find replacements for the human services, he ordered. Sir, we've tried, replied his chief advisor. No other species can match human efficiency in space transport. Their ships were faster, their crews were more reliable, and their prices were lower than build our own ships. We're trying, sir. But the humans took all their technical specifications with them. We're having to start from the beginning. Captain Oh Sung-ho piloted his reconnaissance ship along the edge of human space. His mission was to watch and report on galactic events, but not to interfere. Through his ship's sensors, he could see the chaos spreading across alien worlds. Captain, reported his sensor operator, Ensign Moon Hyunji. I'm detecting massive refugee movements in the Altarian system. Looks like their government has collapsed? Cuz? Oh asked. Unknown, sir. But intelligence suggests it's related to economic problems since the human withdrawal. Oh made a note in his log. The Altarians had been friends to humanity. Their ambassador had even voted against the Council's demands. Now they were suffering because of the Council's actions. Sir, Moon continued, we're also detecting increased pirate activity in Sector 7. 3 merchant convoys attacked this week. Oh, nodded grimly. Human patrol ships had kept that sector safe for 20 years. Now the pirates were returning. Like predators sensing that the protectors were gone, back on Terra Prime, Ambassador Yoon received daily reports about the growing chaos. Part of her felt sorry for the innocent aliens who were suffering. But another part of her felt satisfied that the galaxy was learning what humanity's friendship had been worth. Ma'am, reported Commander Lee, we've received over 3,000 requests for humanitarian aid from various alien governments. Response? Yoon asked. The same as always, the Terran Federation is not currently accepting diplomatic communications, Yoon walked to her office window and looked out at the city below. Human children played in parks. Human families lived in peace. Human scientists worked on projects that would benefit humanity alone. It was a smaller world than before. But it was their world. How long until the last evacuation is complete? She asked. 2 more months, ma'am. Then every human will be back in human space. Good, Yoon said. Then we can finally close the door. The galaxy was about to learn that some doors, once closed, might never open again. 1 year had passed since humanity closed its borders. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about what happens when you lose something you never knew you needed. Ambassador Lim Jae-sung of the Korvan Republic stood in the ruins of New Korva City. Black smoke still rose from the destroyed buildings. The blight swarms had come 3 days ago, and his people had no way to stop them. How many survivors? He asked his aide, Captain Valkorian. Maybe 10,000 from a city of 2 million. Valkorian replied, his voice hollow with grief. Lim looked at the emergency communicator in his hands. For months, he had been trying to contact human space. Every message got the same response. The Terran Federation is not currently accepting diplomatic communications. Try again, he told his communications officer. Sir, we've tried 50 times. Today alone. Try again, Lim shouted, then caught himself. His people were dying, and he was taking his anger out on his own staff. The officer sent another message toward human space. They waited. The same automated voice came back. The Terran Federation is not currently accepting diplomatic communications. Lim threw the communicator against the wall, where it shattered into pieces. The humans used to patrol this sector, Valkorian said quietly. They fought the blight swarms before they could reach our worlds. We never even knew the battles were happening. We voted against the Council's demands, Lim said bitterly. We supported the humans, and still they abandon us. What Lim didn't know was that General Park Dong-wook was watching from a human observation post just outside the system. Park had been ordered to monitor the situation, but not to intervene. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Colonel Choi Min-soo, "the blight swarms are moving toward the Corven homeworld. At current speed, they'll arrive in 6 days." Park clenched his fists. He had fought these creatures for 15 years. He knew exactly how to stop them. His fleet could destroy the blight swarms in 2 hours, but his orders were clear: observe. "Only, sir," Troy continued, "the Corvens have no defense against blight swarm acid attacks. Their shields won't hold." "I know, Colonel," Park said through gritted teeth. "We could save them, sir. Just one strike mission." Park turned to face his subordinate. "And then what, Colonel?" "We save the Corvens today, and tomorrow the Council will demand we save someone else. Before we know it, we're back to being the galaxy's unpaid security force." "But these are innocent people, sir." "Yes, they are. And the Council chose to put them in danger when they drove us away." Park walked to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of aliens were about to die because the Galactic Council thought humanity could be bullied into submission. On the trading station Deep Space Nine, chaos ruled. The station had been a major hub for galactic commerce. But now it was falling apart. Station Commander Nex Holly tried to keep order, but it was impossible. Without human merchant ships, the station had lost 60% of its trade traffic. Without human engineers, the power systems kept failing. Without human security teams, pirates raided the station twice a week. "Commander," reported his aide, "another section has lost life support." "That's the 5th one this month. Can we fix it?" Nex Holly asked. "We don't have the parts, sir. The humans used to supply them." "Then contact other suppliers?" "Sir, the human parts were specially designed for this station. No one else makes them." Nex Holly wanted to scream. The humans had helped build this station 20 years ago. They had designed systems that worked perfectly and rarely broke down. Now, without human maintenance and supplies, everything was falling apart. "Sir," his aide continued, "we've also received reports of pirate attacks on 3 more trade routes. The merchant ships are asking for military escorts." "With what ships?" Nex Holly asked. "The humans used to provide security patrols. Our own forces are busy trying to defend our homeworlds." The aide looked down at his datapad. "Sir, there are reports that the Volthuri and Nexari are preparing for war against each other. If that happens, the remaining trade routes will become battlefields." Dr. Shin Eun-ji worked in her secret laboratory on the human research station Hidden Valley. For months, she had been secretly sharing defensive technologies with alien species through hidden channels. It was against her government's orders, but she couldn't stand watching innocent aliens die. "Dr. Shin," called her assistant, Dr. Kim. "Yong-ho, we've received another desperate message from the Altarian Republic. They're begging for the shield technology to protect their colonies." Shin looked at the message on her screen. The Altarians had always been friends to humanity. Their ambassador had voted against the Council's demands. Their scientists had shared discoveries freely with human researchers. "We can't," she said finally. The order came directly from the president. "No technology sharing with any alien species." "But Dr. Shin, without our shield designs, the Altarian colonies are defenseless against the new pirate weapons." Shin closed her eyes. She knew the president was right. If humanity started helping some aliens, others would demand help too. Soon, they would be back to their old position, doing all the work while others took credit. "Delete the message," she ordered. "We never received it." Kim looked shocked. "Ma'am?" "Delete it, doctor. That's an order." On the Nexari homeworld, Premier Nexari faced his worst nightmare. His economic advisors brought him reports that made his blood run cold. "The situation is critical, Premier," reported Chief Economist Vextaran. "Our entire economic system was built around human efficiency. Without human transport, human manufacturing, and human innovation, we're facing complete collapse." "How long do we have?" Nexari asked. "Maybe 6 months before we start losing colonies?" "A year before we face revolution." Nexari slammed his fist on the table. "This is impossible." Humans are just one species among thousands, yes, sir. But they were involved in everything. They transported our goods, maintained our technology, provided security for our trade routes, and shared innovations. That kept our economy growing. So find replacements. Sir, we've tried. The Valkyrie are too proud to do transport work. The Corvins are busy fighting for their lives. The smaller species don't have the ships or the skills. Nexhari walked to his window and looked out at his capital city. Already he could see signs of the coming collapse. Fewer ships in the sky, fewer lights in the buildings, fewer people in the streets. What about forcing the humans to return? He asked. Vex single quotes TAR and consulted his datapad. Military intelligence says that would be ... Why, sir? Human space is heavily defended, and they know our fleet positions from their years of cooperation with us. So we're trapped. Yes, sir. We need them more than they need us. We just never realized it until now. Captain Oh Sung-ho continued his reconnaissance missions along the border of human space. Every day brought new reports of disaster. Captain, reported Ensign Moon Hyunji, I'm detecting massive population movements in the Valkyrie Empire. Looks like they're abandoning their outer colonies. Reason? Oh asked. Pirates, sir. Without human patrols, the outer systems are too dangerous to hold. Oh made another note in his log. The Valkyrie had been among the loudest voices demanding human submission. Now they were losing their empire piece by piece. Sir, I'm also detecting signs of civil war in the Nexari Collective. Their member worlds are fighting over the remaining resources. And the council? They meet every day, sir. But they can't agree on anything. Some want to apologize to the humans. Others want to try military action. Most just argue about who's to blame. Oh nodded. He had seen this pattern before in historical studies of other civilizations. When the foundation was removed, everything else collapsed. Sir, Moon continued, we're receiving increasing numbers of distress calls from across the galaxy. Refugee fleets, failed colonies, economic collapse. Are any human interests threatened? Oh asked, no sir, all the problems are in alien space. Then we continue to observe and report, nothing more. Back on Terra Prime, President Lee Xiangmin read the daily intelligence reports with a heavy heart. He had not wanted this outcome, but the galaxy had forced his hand. Mr. President, said his chief advisor, Minister Ko Yunsik, the reports are getting worse every day. Entire civilizations are collapsing. Did they think of that before they tried to enslave us? Lee asked. No, sir. But many of the suffering species supported us in the council. Lee was quiet for a long moment. Minister, what was the final vote count on the council's demands? Ko consulted his notes. 412 species voted in favor, 87 voted against. 103 abstained? So, 87 species tried to help us, and now they're suffering because of what the other 412 did. Yes, sir. Lee walked to his window and looked out at the peaceful city below. Somewhere in the galaxy, billions of innocent aliens were dying or suffering because their leaders had made a terrible mistake. The hardest part of leadership, he said quietly, is knowing when mercy becomes weakness. The galaxy was learning that some prices are too high to pay. But the lesson was far from over. 2 years had passed since humanity closed its borders. The galaxy was dying, and everyone knew it. Counselor Veltari of the Valkyrie Empire stood in her private office, staring at reports that made her sick. Half of her empire's colonies had been abandoned. Pirates controlled 3 major trade routes. The blight swarms had consumed 12 star systems. Ma'am, said her aide, Captain Mordick, the emergency session is ready to begin. Veltari nodded and walked to her secret communications room. This was not an official council meeting. This was a desperate attempt by the galaxy's leaders to find a solution before everything collapsed completely. Report, she said to the holographic. Images of other council members. Premier Nexhari appeared first, his image flickering from poor signal quality. The situation in my territory is critical. We've lost contact with 47 colonies. Civil war has broken out in 6 systems. The same here, reported Speaker Vexler. My advisors estimate we have maybe 6 months before total collapse. Veltari took a deep breath. I'm going to say what we're all thinking. We need the humans back. The other council members looked uncomfortable. They won't talk to us, said Councillor Zethavara. We've tried everything. Official messages, unofficial channels, even bribery, they ignore us completely. Then we send ships to human space, Veltari said. Force them to listen. With what ships? Nexhari asked bitterly. Half my fleet is fighting pirates. The other half is trying to stop rebellions. Besides, added Vexler, attacking human space would be suicide. They know all our military secrets from years of cooperation. They know our ship designs, our weapons, our tactics. Veltari felt trapped. The Valkyrie had been the strongest voice demanding human submission. Now her empire was crumbling, and the only people who could save it wouldn't even answer her calls. What about individual contact? She asked. Send small ships with single diplomats. Tried it, said Zethavara. They turn our ships away at the border, very polite but absolutely firm. Your species is not authorized for entry into Terran space. Meanwhile, Dr. No Kyung-soo monitored galactic communications from his hidden listening post. His job was to track what the aliens were saying and doing. What he heard made him both sad and angry. Dr. No, called his assistant, Lieutenant Park Sun-mi, we're intercepting another emergency council session. What are they discussing this? Time? No asked. The usual. Begging for help, blaming each other, and making threats they can't carry out. No listened to the transmission. The council members sounded desperate and frightened. Good, he thought. They should be frightened. Sir, Park continued, we're also detecting massive refugee movements heading toward our borders. Millions of aliens are fleeing the chaos. Orders from Terra Prime? Same as always. Provide basic humanitarian aid at border stations, but no. Entry into human space. No nodded. It was hard to watch innocent aliens suffer, but humanity had learned a bitter lesson. Help too much, and people start to think they own you. Admiral Biksu-min stood on the bridge of the U-Sol, watching the destruction of the Corvan homeworld through her ship's sensors. The blight swarms had finally reached the planet. Billions of Corvans were dying. Admiral, said her first officer, Captain Lee Dongjun, we could stop this. One orbital bombardment would destroy the blight swarms. Our orders are clear, Captain. Observe only. But these are the Corvans, ma'am. They voted against the Council's demands. They supported us. Beak turned to face her officer. Captain, do you remember what happened to humanity when we helped others? Yes, ma'am, we were taken for granted. And then? We were told to become slaves or face the consequences. Exactly, the galaxy made its choice. Now they live with the results. On her screen, Beak watched as Corvan evacuation ships fled their dying world. Most would not make it to safety. The few that did would become refugees with nowhere to go. Ma'am. Lee said quietly, this feels wrong. Yes, Captain, it does. But feeling wrong doesn't make it incorrect. Beak had fought beside Corvan soldiers. She had shared meals with Corvan families. She had friends among the dying billions below. But duty came first, and humanity's duty was to itself now. Director Hong Min-jae worked in the Terran Intelligence Center, compiling reports on galactic collapse. His job was to track how far civilization had fallen since humanity withdrew. Director, reported analyst Kim Bo-young, the latest numbers are in. Galactic GDP has dropped by 78%. Over 200 colonies have been abandoned. 43 species are now classified as refugees. Hong looked at the charts on his wall. Red lines showed declining trade, falling populations, and spreading chaos. It looked like a medical chart of a dying patient. What about technological? Regression? He asked. Significant, sir. Without human innovation and maintenance, most species are operating at technology levels from 50 years ago. Some have regressed even further. Hong made notes in his report. The president would want to know every detail of the galaxy's collapse. Not out of cruelty, but to understand the full cost of the Council's mistake. Sir, Kim continued, we're also tracking increased warfare between alien species. With humans no longer mediating disputes, old conflicts are breaking out everywhere. Casualties? Estimated at over 1 billion dead in the past 6 months, sir, and that's just from wars. Disease, starvation, and piracy have killed millions. More, Hong felt sick. He had hoped the aliens would come to their senses quickly. Instead, they were too proud to admit their mistake until it was almost too late. Any signs of the council reconsidering their position? He asked, some individual. Members have tried to apologize, sir, but the council as a whole refuses to admit wrongdoing. They still blame humanity for being unreasonable. Councillor Zethavara sat alone in her chambers, composing a personal message to human space. She had tried official channels, secret negotiations, and even bribery. Nothing worked. Now she was trying something she had never done before, telling the truth. To the humans, she began recording. My name is Zethavara of the Valkyrie Empire. 2 years ago, I voted to force your species into submission. I was wrong. She paused, struggling with words she had never expected to say. I believed that because we outnumbered you, we could control you. I thought that because you chose to cooperate, you had no choice but to obey. I was foolish and arrogant. Tears ran down her face. The Valkyrie rarely showed emotion, but watching her empire die had broken something inside her. My people are dying. Billions across the galaxy are suffering. Not because you attack us, but because you no longer help us. We never realized how much we depended on your kindness until it was gone. She took a deep breath. I do not ask for forgiveness. I do not ask for help. I only ask that you remember that some of us have learned from our mistakes. Some of us understand now what we threw away. The message was sent into the void like all the others. But unlike the others, this one carried something new, genuine regret. On Terra Prime, President Lee Chang-min read Zethavara's message with mixed feelings. It was the first honest apology humanity had received, but one apology could not erase the harm done by thousands of voices demanding human slavery. Mr. President, said Minister Ko Yoon-sik, this message is different from the others. Yes, Lee agreed, but it's still just one voice among many. The Council as a whole still refuses to admit wrongdoing. How long do we wait, sir? Lee looked out his window at the peaceful human city below. His people were safe, prosperous, and free. The price of that safety was the suffering of innocent aliens across the galaxy. Until they learned that some mistakes cannot be undone, he said quietly. The galaxy was running out of time to learn that lesson. 3 years after humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy was at war with itself. Field Marshal U.J. Hyon stood in the command center of Fort Liberty, humanity's most advanced monitoring station. The walls were covered with screens showing battles across the galaxy. Every screen told the same story. Civilization was tearing itself apart. Marshal, reported Colonel Shen Wu-jin, the Valkyrie Empire has declared war on the Nexari Collective. Full-scale fleet engagement in the Centauri sector. You watched the battle through long-range sensors. Hundreds of ships exchanged fire in the darkness of space. These were species that had worked together for centuries. Now they were killing each other over the scraps of their dying civilizations. Because of the war, you asked? The Valkyrie blamed the Nexari for the economic collapse. The Nexari blamed the Valkyrie for the original council decision. Both sides claimed the other is hoarding resources. You shook his head. What resources? The galaxy barely has enough to feed itself anymore. Sir, we're also detecting smaller conflicts in 47 other systems. The Altarians are fighting the Corvans over refugee rights. The Centauri Alliance has split into 3 factions. Even the peaceful Delphians are raiding their neighbors for food. Ambassador Seo Young-mi worked in the Humanitarian Crisis Center on Terra Prime. Her job was the hardest in the human government, deciding who could be saved and who had to be left to die. Ambassador, called her aide, Dr. Park Sang-ho, we have another refugee crisis at Border Station Alpha, 2 million Corvan survivors seeking shelter. Seo looked at the files on her desk. Each one represented thousands or millions of aliens begging for humanity's help. She could only approve a few. What's their status? She asked. Their homeworld was completely consumed by blight swarms 3 days ago. These are the only survivors of their entire species. CO felt her heart break a little more. The Corvens had been friends to humanity. They had voted against the Council's demands. Now they were extinct except for these few refugees. Approved, she said. Temporary shelter in the border colonies, full humanitarian support. Ma'am, Park said carefully, that will bring our refugee population to over 50 million. Some officials are saying we can't handle any more? Then some officials need to remember who we are, SEO replied firmly. We don't turn away people who are dying, even if their governments were foolish. Captain An Ji-hoon commanded the hospital ship, Mercy. His mission was to provide emergency medical aid along the borders of human space. It was dangerous work that often put him in conflict with his orders. Captain, called his medical officer. Dr. Kim Hae-rin, we're receiving distress calls from a Delphian colony ship. They have a plague outbreak and their medical supplies are exhausted. Looked at his orders. He was supposed to provide minimal aid to prevent genocide, but nothing more. But the Delphians were peaceful farmers who had never hurt anyone. Distance. To the colony ship? He asked. 6 hours at full speed, sir. Medical supplies we can spare? Enough to save maybe half of them, Dr. Kim replied. On made his decision. Set course for the colony ship. Full speed. Sir, warned his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Yu Jin-ho, that will take us into the war zone between the Valkyrie and Nexari fleets. Then we'll have to be careful, said Dot as the Mercy raced through space. Thought about the impossible position humanity was in. They could watch innocent aliens die, or they could help and risk being drawn back into galactic conflicts. There was no good choice. Economist Jang Hae-rin worked in the analysis division, studying how far galactic civilization had fallen. Her latest report made frightening reading. Director, she called to her supervisor, Dr. Lim Chang-soo, the numbers are final. Galactic civilization has regressed by over 2 centuries in just 3 years. Lim looked at her charts and graphs. Explain the key points. Trade volume is down 94%. Most species have lost the ability to maintain their advanced technology. Food production has collapsed on over 300 worlds. An estimated 40 billion aliens have died. From war, disease, or starvation. And it's accelerating. Yes, sir. The collapse is feeding on itself. As each species fails, it puts more pressure on the survivors. We estimate complete civilizational collapse within 2 years if the current trend continues. Lim was quiet for a moment, and this all started because they wanted to make us their servants. Yes, sir. They thought they could force humanity to serve them. Instead, they destroyed themselves. General Kwon Tae-ho prepared humanity's defenses for the possibility of alien invasion. His intelligence report suggested that some species were desperate enough to try taking by force what they had rejected in friendship. General, reported Admiral Park Ki-young, long-range sensors detect a Valkyrie battle fleet moving toward our border. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Fleet strength? Kwon asked. 200 ships, sir. It's most of what's left of their navy. Are they running from something or coming for us? Unknown, sir. But their course suggests they're heading for the Sol system. Kwon studied the tactical display. The Valkyrie had been humanity's strongest opponents in the Council. If they were coming to human space, it probably wasn't for a friendly visit. Alert all border defenses, he ordered. If they want to fight, we'll give them one they'll remember. But Kwon hoped it wouldn't come to that. Humanity had withdrawn to avoid war, not to start one. On the bridge of the Valkyrie flagship Pride of Empire, Counselor Valtari made the hardest decision of her life. Her empire was dead. Her people were refugees. Her fleet was all that remained of a once great civilization. Ma'am, reported her fleet commander, Admiral Kethver, we're approaching human space. Their defenses are powering up. Any response to our communication requests? Valtari asked. No, ma'am. The same automated message. The Terran Federation is not currently accepting diplomatic communications. Veltari looked at the few ships that followed her. 3 years ago, she had commanded thousands of vessels. Now, she had barely 200, filled with the last survivors of her species. Admiral, she said quietly, prepare to surrender. Ma'am, you heard me. We're not here to fight. We're here to beg. The human fleet that met them was smaller but clearly more advanced. Veltari could see weapons and defenses that hadn't existed when humanity was part of galactic society. They had spent 3 years improving their technology instead of fixing other people's problems. Human vessels, she broadcast on all frequencies. This is Counselor Veltari of what remains of the Valkyrie Empire. I request permission to speak with your leaders. The response came quickly. Valkyrie vessels will maintain current position. Any aggressive action will result in immediate destruction. So Veltari waited. She had spent 3 years learning patience the hard way. President Li Changmin read the reports from the border with growing concern. Alien refugees were arriving daily. Some came seeking help. Others came seeking conquest. Most just came because they had nowhere else to go. Mr. President, said Defense Minister Kim Won-ho, the military is concerned about the refugee camps. We have over 100 million aliens in temporary shelters along our borders. Are they a security threat? Lee asked. Not directly, sir. But feeding and housing them is straining our resources. And some officials worry that accepting refugees will encourage more to come. Lee walked to his window and looked out at his capital city. Somewhere beyond the horizon, millions of aliens waited for humanity's mercy. Minister, he said finally, what does our intelligence say about galactic population levels? Down by approximately 60%, sir. Most species have lost their homeworlds or their governments. We estimate that within 5 years, only a few 100 million aliens will survive across the entire galaxy, from a population of over 1 trillion just 3 years ago. Yes, sir. Lee felt the weight of that knowledge. The galaxy had not just rejected humanity's friendship. It had committed suicide rather than admit it was wrong. Continue humanitarian aid, he ordered. But make it clear that refugees must earn their place through work and good behavior. We're not running a charity. And if more refugees come than we can handle? Lee was quiet for a long moment. Then we'll face that problem when it comes. But we won't let innocent people die because their leaders were fools. Across the galaxy, the few remaining alien governments finally began to understand what they had lost. But understanding came too late. The damage was done and the galaxy was burning in the ashes of its own pride. 4 years after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, the galaxy was a graveyard of broken dreams and dead civilizations. High Admiral Kim Sun-ho stood on the observation deck of Terra Prime's orbital station, looking out at the stars. Each point of light had once been home to thriving alien civilizations. Now, most were dark and empty. Admiral, called his aide, Captain Cho Min-ho, we've received the final report from the survey division. Kim took the datapad and read the numbers that told the story of galactic collapse. Of the original 612 council member species, only 73 still had functioning governments. The rest had fallen to war, plague, economic collapse, or simple inability to maintain their technology without human support. Population estimates? Kim asked. Down from 1.2 trillion to approximately 200 million across the entire galaxy, sir. We're looking at a survival rate of less than 1%. Kim closed his eyes. He had known this day would come, but seeing the final numbers still hurt. The galaxy had chosen pride over survival, and this was the result. Sir, Cho continued, we've also received something unusual. A formal message from what's left of the Galactic Council. Another demand for aid? No, sir, this one is different. Dr. Park So-young, head of the Terran Xenological Institute, worked in her laboratory, analyzing the remains of galactic civilization. Her job was to understand what had gone wrong and how to prevent it from happening again. Dr. Park, called her assistant, Dr. Moon Da-hee, the linguistic analysis is complete. We've documented the last transmissions from 247 extinct species. Park looked at the data. Each entry represented an entire civilization that no longer existed. Common themes? Regret mostly. Many of the final messages contain apologies to humanity. They realized too late that we had been holding their civilization together. Any blame directed at us? Very little, surprisingly. Most seemed to understand that they brought this destruction on themselves. Park walked to her window and looked out at the refugee camps that dotted the landscape around the research station. Millions of alien survivors lived there now, the last remnants of species that had once ruled star systems. Dr. Moon, what's your assessment of the galaxy's ability to recover? Without significant outside help? Zero, ma'am. The knowledge base is too damaged, the population too small, the infrastructure too broken. Galactic civilization is extinct. President Li Shangmin sat in his office, reading the message that had just arrived from space. It was signed by Counselor Zethmara, the last surviving member of the original Galactic Council. The message was simple. To the humans, we were wrong. We are sorry. We understand now what we destroyed. This is not a request for aid. This is an acknowledgement of our failure and an apology for the greatest mistake in galactic history. Li set down the message and walked to his window. Outside, human children played in parks while their parents went about their daily lives. Humanity had survived the galaxy's collapse and even thrived. But at what cost? Mr. President, said his secretary over the intercom, the cabinet is ready for the emergency session. Li made his way to the cabinet room where his closest advisors waited. The question before them was simple but profound. What should humanity do now? Report, Li said to Foreign Minister Ru Haiyan-Wu. Sir, we're facing a moral crisis. The galaxy is effectively dead, but there are still survivors who could be saved with our help. How many survivors? Li asked. Approximately 200 million. Scattered across thousands of refugee camps, failing colonies, and dying worlds. Defense Minister Kim Won-ho spoke next. Sir, we have the capability to resettle all the survivors in human space. We have empty worlds, advanced technology, and the resources to support them. But Li sensed there was more. But doing so would essentially mean taking responsibility for the remnants of galactic civilization. We would become their guardians, their protectors, their leaders. Economic advisor Jang Hei-rin added her perspective. The cost would be enormous but manageable. The real question is whether we want to take on that responsibility after what happened. Li was quiet for a long moment. 4 years ago, the galaxy demanded that we become their servants. Now you're suggesting we become their saviors. What's the difference? Foreign Minister Ru answered carefully. The difference, sir, is choice. 4 years ago, they tried to force us. Now we would choose to help because it's the right thing to do. And if we help them rebuild, what's to stop this from happening again in a few generations? What's to stop them from once again taking our help for granted? The room was silent. Everyone knew the risk. Humanity could save the galaxy's survivors, rebuild their civilizations, and watch them grow strong enough to make the same mistakes again, Captain. He commanded the survey ship New Hope as it traveled through the ruins of galactic civilization. Her mission was to locate and catalog survivor communities that might be saved. Captain, reported her science officer, Lieutenant Kim Jae-won, we're approaching the former Altarian home system. Through the ship's viewscreen, Moon could see the remains of what had once been a beautiful garden world. The planet's cities were dark ruins. Its orbital stations drifted as empty metal shells. Any life signs? She asked. Small communities in the northern continent. Maybe 50,000 survivors living in pre-industrial conditions. Moon remembered when this system had been home to 3 billion Altarians. They had been artists, philosophers, and musicians who had enriched galactic culture for centuries. Now, they were reduced to subsistence, farming among the ruins of their former glory. Are they asking for help? Moon asked. No, ma'am. They seem to have accepted their fate. They're just trying to survive day by day. Moon made a note in her log. The Altarians had been friends to humanity, but they had also been part of the galactic civilization that had rejected human partnership. Did friendship 4 years ago outweigh the consequences of their society's choices? Continue the survey, she ordered. Mark their location for possible humanitarian aid, but no direct contact yet. Minister Ko Yoon-sik worked in the Department of Galactic Affairs, planning for whatever decision the president would make. If humanity chose to help the survivors, the logistics would be enormous. Minister, reported his aide, Director Hong Min-jae, we've completed the resettlement projections. We could relocate all galactic survivors to human space within 2 years. Cost? Ko asked, approximately 15% of our annual GDP for 5 years. Manageable but significant. And the social integration challenges? Complex, sir. We're talking about dozens of different species with different biologies, cultures, and needs. There would be conflicts, misunderstandings, and resentment on both sides. Ko nodded. Saving the galaxy's survivors would not be easy, but it was possible. The question was whether humanity should try. What about the alternative approach? He asked, selective aid to former ally species and complete abandonment of the rest? That would be cheaper and easier, but it means watching billions more die. Not? Billions, Director? There aren't billions left to die. Admiral Song Hae-jin received new orders that made her both proud and concerned. If the president decided to help the galactic survivors, her fleets would lead the largest rescue operation in history. Admiral, reported Captain Park In-ho, the rescue fleet preparation is complete. We have 200 ships ready for immediate deployment. Crew morale? Song asked. Mixed, ma'am. Some are eager to help innocent survivors. Others are angry about saving the people who tried to enslave us. Song understood both feelings. Part of her wanted to help every alien refugee. Another part of her remembered the Council's demands and wanted to let the galaxy burn completely. Captain, what's your personal opinion? Park was quiet for a moment. Ma'am, I think we should help them. Not because they deserve it, but because we're better than they were. President Lee made his decision on a quiet evening, sitting alone in his office and looking at pictures of the refugee camps outside Earth's major cities. Millions of alien faces looked back at him, each representing species that had once rejected humanity's friendship. He thought about his daughter, who was 7 years old and had never known a galaxy where humans were not respected. What kind of galaxy did he want to leave for her? He thought about the human colonists who had died defending alien worlds before the withdrawal. What would they want him to do? He thought about the future and what humanity wanted to be, conquerors, saviors, or something else entirely. Finally, he made his choice. The next morning, President Lee stood before the Terran Assembly to announce humanity's decision to the galaxy. 4 years ago, he began, the Galactic Council demanded that humanity accept a subordinate role in galactic civilization. We refused and we left. The galaxy has since learned the cost of pride and the value of cooperation. He paused, looking out at the assembled representatives of humanity. Today I announce that humanity will return to galactic space. Not as conquerors seeking revenge, not as servants accepting submission, but as partners offering a new beginning. The assembly erupted in mixed cheers and protests. We will provide aid to all survivors regardless of their species' past actions. We will help rebuild what was destroyed. And we will work to create a new galactic civilization based on mutual respect and shared responsibility. Lee raised his hand for silence.